Hi there, and welcome to another spiritual toolkit video, this one about haiku. Haiku is a Japanese form of poetry that has been around since the 17th century. It is in a form of 17 syllables that is typically 5-7-5 format. And it's often a real, genuine, deep expression of nature and our spirituality. And I wanted to share with you an introduction from a book called Clear Water by Jeannie Martin. It's a haiku invitation into our luminous, sacred world. And she really introduces it beautifully. Haiku is a simple short poem that connects nature and human nature. Haiku is a poem of direct, immediate experience. It is natural and uncluttered. Haiku convey a single event, perhaps a single moment, in all its fullness. Haiku focus on small details, perhaps those things that are often overlooked. These might be natural events or details that are hidden in plain sight. Haiku points to the extraordinary in the ordinary. Often there is a small drama of nature, something to wonder about, something that inspires. This gentle form can lift up everyday moments as we experience the sacred in everyday life. I wanted to share with you a couple of her haiku poems, just so you can get a sense of what it is. Summer evening, breathing the air, breathing the moonlight. Summer afternoon, watching the clouds drift into wind. Late evening, replacing the lamp with a candle. These poems really take you to that moment. It's like the essence of an experience, the detailed essence of an experience being captured in just a few words. I think the fact that it's so short and so succinct, I think that there's so much beauty in that. Often, if you read poetry at all, some poetry can be very long. And this is just like a whisper of an experience. Yeah, I wanted to share with you a couple that I wrote recently. Again, I love haiku because of its brevity and intensity in some way. Gently floating tree, feathery thickness, breeze, under wisteria. I'll share one more. Stone wall, that's the name of it. Carefully placed rocks, covered with moss and lichen. Pawcatuck yard guard. And mom's purple iris, remembering from childhood, growing, vibrant, stretching, tall. I write haiku sometimes in this little teeny tiny book. I also create mandalas that are in this teeny tiny book. Little mandalas, little haiku, and I'll share about mandalas another time. But I also wanted to introduce you to a poet in our midst, a poet who is a member of our church, and he writes haiku, and he explains it as a way of framing God moments. Haiku as a way of framing God moments. I just love that, because we see God moments all around us. Sometimes it's hard to capture them, but we can capture them in haiku. And it's a spiritual experience. It's a spiritual practice, or it can be. It can be a spiritual practice. And we get inspired by something in our life, something in nature, something that happens, and then we just find these words, these little tiny package of words that just beautifully articulates an experience of God, right? His wife calls his haiku, Laureen, a prayer of gratitude. And often his haiku becomes a seed for a longer poem, which he'll tell you about. Please welcome Terry McCarthy as he shares some of his haiku and also some of his process and how it is a spiritual practice for him. Thanks for watching. God bless.
Hola, my friends at NCC and anyone else who might want to be watching this video. Welcome and thank you for taking the time. Our spiritual and arts facilitator, Patty Chaffee, has asked that I would share some of my poetry and haiku with you today and talk a little bit about the process of putting them together, and also how it has become a bit of a spiritual practice. So here we go. Here's a haiku for you. But a breath away from something sacred and true, breath away from you. Now, word of caution, probably wouldn't take me too literal in these social distancing pandemic times, but that haiku has become even a bit of a mantra for me as I say it to myself many times in many situations. And it reminds me of the connectedness to you, my connectedness to God and to our creation. And so it's a favorite. But haiku, as you can see, are very short and sweet. I'm sure I'm preaching to the choir here, but just 17 syllables, 3 lines, 5 syllables in one line, 7 in the second, and 5 in the third. So it makes you think about the words you want to say, and it takes away the unnecessary words and all that chatter and monkey mind, if you will. And I use haiku for many reasons. As far as a process goes, it always starts with an inspiration. Many times, and even traditionally, nature is the subject. Something happens in nature and you're moved, inspired to try to frame that with words, and it becomes a bit of a word photo, if you will. My wife actually likes to call them prayers of gratitude, which I really like that. Because it is, as you get inspired, these may be some God moments, and haiku is a good way not only to frame them, but to remember them. So it's a bit like, once you have many of them written, almost like a little word photo album. So a few examples. This one was from a hike that Laura and I took in Santa Fe. Laura likes to collect heart rocks. And so, angular heart shape, laying in the dusty trail, pinyon and cypress. So now that image is with us. Driving home down Society Road one night after work, this happened. Glanced in rear view. Red hawk landed on a branch. Took my breath away. So simple, moment in time, captured, but now every time, even as I repeat those words now, I can still see that red-tailed hawk landing on the branch, which was a beautiful sight. Haiku for me can also express thoughts or emotions that are sometimes hard to share. This one inspired by a windy fall day. Leaves drop like seconds. We dance on the wind's currents and fall back to earth. Or this, golden red sunset. Set our hearts on fire tonight. Tomorrow we sail. sunlight and shadows, play with imagination, changing point of view. So you see, they all capture a moment, but they also are a great memory and a great way to kind of live in the here and the now, which is definitely a spiritual practice through meditation I've been working on. Also, and I didn't realize this till I started looking through my old haikus for this video, but they can become seeds to longer poetry. I came upon this haiku that I wrote 2 years ago. The ocean dances to a rhythm in our soul, singing, "Come on home." Hadn't realized, I kind of forgot about that one. And that inspired a longer poem. So I'll get on my phone here. And I call this Ocean Song. Maybe it's the waves or just all that motion. But something gets in your soul when you grow up near the ocean. And when you're away from her for very long, her salty air, her sandy shore, you begin to hear the ocean song, singing, "Come, swim in my healing waters once more." Like an ancient voice down in your soul, she makes you feel part of the whole, telling you you're never alone, a certain smell that reminds you of home. She is as constant as the seasons four, singing, "Come, swim in my healing waters once more. Swim in my waters once more." So haiku probably planted that seed, and then the thought kind of percolated and turned into something else, which is great. So haiku can be used on many levels. I want to show you this book by Tyler Knott Gregson. All the Words Are Yours. Over 2,000 haikus just on the subject of love, which is really incredible. So that's another way you can take a subject and just try to make haiku work for that. Here's a favorite of mine from this book. Houses are not homes. We're not made of bricks and stones. Home is you and me. Which I think we've been working on our house so much that definitely rings true. And come think of it, when the to-do list comes around, I might use that. Anyway, thank you so much for giving me a few minutes of your time today. I know we're apart, but our spirits are but a breath away from something sacred and true, breath away from you. Thanks for your time. Hope in the future I can hear some of your poetry. Adios, my friends.